Hi guys, I'm Leela Wolford. I'm a fashion stylist. I've been doing this almost 11 years in October. These are our panelists, Kimberly, Audrey, Laura, and oh my god, Jared. So I want to first start talking about our journeys of how we got to where we are. So if you guys wouldn't mind talking about what you do currently now and the steps you took to get to where you are. You want to start, Jared? Or?
Yeah, you're looking at me. Right now, I'm an editorial stylist for jackthreads.com. It's a menswear e-commerce site. We carry everything a guy would wear, a lot of homeware too, product accessories, shoes, watches, all that.
And how did you get into it?
Well, I didn't go to school for anything fashion related at all. I went to school for communications and I minored in marketing. I wanted to be in like sports, media, broadcasting, and I realized that the two things I liked was like, talking about sports and talking to people and wearing suits. So that's kind of like, I guess, the first step in that direction. But honestly, I worked a lot of retail. I worked at J. Crew, Levi's, and the way I started, and Jack Spade, and the way I started, I interned at Club Monaco for merchandising, and I hated it. I didn't like numbers. It's not something I could do. I couldn't sit down at a desk, and like it wasn't something that was for me. And there's another guy that I worked with. He was a social media intern. And he also had like a menswear blog, and he was like, I like the way, I worked at J. Crew at the time, I was just interning there. He's like, I like the way, you dress, like it would be great if you could like style an editorial for his website. And that's not something that I ever see myself doing. I was like, yeah, I mean, sounds fun. Just like, I'm just gonna bring a bunch of the shit that I wear and just like put it on a guy. And the editorial came out a lot better than I thought it would. And that was the first time I ever seen Jared Blake, stylist, like in a credit. And I looked at that as like, you know what, I could do that because it was fun for me to do. And it was like, if I could get paid to do that, then that's like, that'd be a dream come true. So it's sort of like my first step in that direction. And it's a lot about who you know, and like an opportunity opened itself up at Jack Threads. I applied to it. I applied there, I got an interview, it went great. I didn't get the job, so it's like deep. The studio is in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which is like, I don't know if any of you know where that is. It's in Dumbo, and it's like a headache to get to. The closest train is still a 15-minute walk to actually get there. But getting there, I realized that Guild Group was in the same, like on the 6th floor. So like I just stumbled and like, hey, it's Jack Threads, and they're like, no, they're upstairs, they're on the 9th floor, get out of here. So I interviewed there, it went great. I didn't get the job, they went another direction, but going there I already realized, like, okay, well, since I know how to get here now, I'm gonna apply to Guild right after this interview. And actually got a job styling coordinating at Guild. And I knew Jack Threads is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in menswear at the time. Like it was a good feel, like all around, like the interview process. So I went to Guild with the intention of emailing the guy who interviewed me while we're in the same building. Like, hey, like I'm at Guild now. Let's get a coffee. So it's just like my way of just getting one step closer to like eventually being there. So in 3 months, like 3 months into Guild, he was like, hey, that position opened back up again. Do you want to come check it out? I had to interview again, which sucked, but I went literally on my lunch break, went upstairs, and I got interviewed there, and I've been there for almost 3 years now. So.
Love it. Yeah. Great.
My name is Laura. I'm a freelance editorial and celebrity stylist, and I'm also a fashion editor and writer, so I'm contributing right now for a Latino website called Vivala.com, which is cool. They're under Cafe Media. So my start, I studied fashion in school, and I knew I wanted to be a stylist by my senior year. Some alumni had come to talk to our classes, and they were talking about their experience. And one of the guys there was a stylist in LA, and I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. It's one of those aha moments, like, oh, it's everything I love, everything I can see myself being. And I went to speak to him immediately afterwards, and he was like, listen, I was in Texas, I was studying in Texas, and he's like, you either got to go to New York or LA to pursue your dream. It's just not going to happen here in Texas. It's not at the scale to where you want to really do the things you want to do. So he's like, take your pick. So immediately afterwards, I started looking for jobs or internships in New York, and I landed an internship at Art and Commerce, which is an agency that repped on a global scale some of the best photographers, makeup artists, hairstylists, and stylists in the world. And they only chose 4 people, and they chose each intern that went into different fields. So like someone who was interested to be a makeup artist or a stylist, I was the stylist girl. From there, I got poached by a celebrity stylist who needed assistance, and her clients at the time were Boy George, some royalty people, Madonna, Lil' Kim, like crazy, crazy clients, amazing. And she had also styled the music video Groove Is in the Heart. I don't know if you guys remember that, it's like funky. She was amazing, she was a great mentor, I learned so much from her. But then she wanted to become a fashion designer, and it was great for me to see that I didn't ever want to do that. So she launched VPL. I don't know if you guys know that, you should look it up. Kanye is very influenced by her direction. Anyway, so then I left from that. I started working with other stylists and kind of just picked up on what they were doing, learned the tricks of the trade. I worked with a stylist named Joanne Blades, who had a lot of celebrity clients. I worked with Mel Ottenberg, who is Rihanna's stylist. And it was basically just through word of mouth. If you were a really great assistant, you worked hard, you weren't trying to like steal their contacts, they would just refer you from one to the next. And once you would name drop, oh, I worked with so-and-so and so-and-so, then more and more people would hire you. So then one of my mentors was like, girl, everyone in their early 20s wants to be a stylist, you've got to diversify, like get into magazines, like that's where it's at. And so then I was like, okay, let me find a magazine gig. So I started working at Latina magazine. I'm of Latina descent, so I was like, it'll be like my people and it'll be a great fit. So I started from the ground, from fashion assistant on up, and I just busted my butt. I was like, anything you guys can throw at me, I'm ready to go. So I worked the closet. I was like OCD about everything, so they loved it because I kept everything organized and clean, and I had already seen stylists, like how they worked, so in the closet I just like ran the game. And then they also started to see my personal style shine through. I'd be like, oh, this is amazing, and this would go great with this skirt. So they started to let me do more of my own market work, because they would get slammed all the time with their deadlines, because it was a monthly magazine. So they'd be like, Laura, pick out, the shoes you like for this trend story, and we really trust your taste. So I worked from, I was promoted from a fashion assistant to the credits editor, where you have to credit everything that's been shot. And then from there, I was a fashion writer, because they also saw that I would put together a sentence well. And then I started doing more styling on my own for the magazine. Sadly, the recession hit hard, and so then I had to find another gig. They started laying off other people, and I couldn't find a job anywhere with like a US brand, which was really depressing. And so I actually started looking for international companies, and I was obsessed with Topshop at the time. And Topshop was doing a huge push to be relevant with like the hipster market in my neighborhood in Williamsburg. And so I just started stalking the brand. I was like, if they're going to open in the US, they're going to have all these new jobs, so let me just start looking for a job. And in full stalker mode, one of my friends was dating a guy in London, and then I sent my resume to the guy in London. I was like, will you pass it on to your boss? And then that's kind of how I started to get some meetings, and then I became the senior stylist for the brand. So I helped them launch the personal shopping division, which is really cool. And it was, at the time, they were calling it a stylist role, so I worked with any of the people who had like TV shows, the costume department. I worked with celebrity stylists. I basically was like the go-to person for Topshop to help them put it on celebs and other people. So it was almost like a VP liaison. But then it turned into a personal shopper role, and that wasn't, it was more like sales driven. That wasn't really my scene. I didn't want to be so numbers driven. So I jumped ship from there, went into the digital scene. I'm gonna go a little faster. I've been in the industry for 12 years now, so I've done a lot of stuff. So from there, I went into digital. I worked social media, digital content, social media campaigns for fashion brands. So I was always still in the fashion scene. Then I just really missed magazines. I got back into it again. So my most recent role, I was a fashion editor at Cosmo for Latinas, which is a magazine at Hearst. Sadly, it folded right for the holidays. So now I've pushed back into the freelance scene. So that's where I'm at today.
Great.
Nice.
I'm Audrey, and I'm currently a fashion assistant at Redbook magazine, and on the side I do freelance styling and I run a lifestyle and fashion blog called Simply Audrey Kate. So I'm from Arizona, and I studied marketing and journalism at Arizona State University, and there was no fashion program there. I didn't know anyone who liked fashion, so I wasn't really sure like what direction I wanted to go in. So I was like maybe design, maybe PR, marketing, was really unsure. And then I had met a photographer at my friend she was a model, so I was at the shoot with her. And I started talking to this photographer. I was like, well, what about styling? Like, why don't you start a blog and start styling, figuring out what you want to do? So that summer, going into my sophomore year, I started my blog, and then I started connecting with photographers and styling engagement photo shoots, kind of like senior portraits, very commercial work. And then it kind of led into there from working with Phoenix Fashion Week. I was styling their runway shows, commercials. I was working with their designers and doing that stuff. So that was all freelance work when I was in college. And I did different internships from PR, editorial, I did marketing, and I didn't want to be in Arizona, I wanted to be in New York. So going into my senior year, I only applied to New York internships, and everyone's like, that's a bold move, and I was like, I'll be in New York. And I luckily got an internship at Redbook, and I was in the editorial department, but I was writing like health and lifestyle stuff, but I was like stalking all the fashion girls, and I was like, take me to set with you, let me learn from you. And then when I graduated, I moved to New York. I didn't have a job. I moved here in August, and I started freelancing at Glamour. So I was doing all of their New York Fashion Week scheduling. So I was doing the schedules for the editor-in-chief, all the fashion department. I was making sure that they were getting to the shows of where they needed to be every day. And then from there, it led me to Editorialist, which is like a luxury accessories e-commerce site and magazine. It's two previous Hearst editors. So I was working with them, I was doing their photo shoot bookings, I was helping with all of like the finances and the inventory and their online shop. And then from there, the spot at Redbook opened up to be their closet fashion assistant. So that's where I'm at now. So I work with the market team. I'm calling in samples, I oversee all the interns, I'm organizing the closet, and it's kind of my journey. So that's how I got to Redbook, but on the side, I'm still doing all the freelance stuff. I have my blog as kind of my creative outlet, so I do collaborations with different brands. I'm doing like different season lookbooks or different like product kind of reviews and whatnot. It's kind of all mixed together.
Beautiful. Amazing.
It's a lot. Hi, I'm Kimberly Richardson. I'm stylist for BCBG. I moved here like almost 3 years ago to actually go to school for fashion design. I started like, as a kid, I'm gonna go all the way back, and then I'm gonna zoom and make this like 10 minutes, probably 5 minutes. But as a kid, I used to sketch and draw and cut hair and do all kind of stuff. So I was like one of those kids, I never knew what I wanted to do. I was always good at sketching and stuff like that. When I got older, I started, getting into life or whatever. Had kids, got married. So I went straight into hairstyling, So it kind of like cut off my passion, but I still had a passion for doing hair. That was the most important part to me. So I did that, brushed through that. My youngest son ended up graduating from high school. When he graduated from high school, he was like, I went to them and I was like, look, I'm leaving. And they were like, really? Yeah, I'm from Texas. I was like, see y'all later. Some of my kids, they were like, really? And so I said, what are you gonna do? I was like, I've always had a passion for fashion design, and that's what I'm doing. So finally, I packed up. I applied for school. I ended up going to the Art Institute. Applied for school. Once I applied for school, they were like, boom, you got it. Actually, I applied for them, and I applied for, I don't know why I want to say Pratt, but that's not it. Not FIT. What's the Parsons? Yeah. So I applied for Parsons. I applied for Parsons like AI and Parsons. Parsons was taking too long. AI was like, all right, come on, cool, we got you, you know. So I was like, all right. So I came, I moved here by myself, no friends, didn't know nobody, anything. I was just like, boom, just go ahead. Came, went, graduated, and during the end of graduation, one of our instructors approached me and was like, do you want to do New York City Fashion Week? I was like, sure. So I ended up going into, but before that, I was still doing hair. So I ended up getting a job at the dry bar, doing blowouts at the dry bar, ended up being the salon educator for them. Doing that, I was told either it's your job or school. So I said school. So I kind of quit my job, but I still kept it. But they were like, no, let's go this way and you can still have your job. So with doing that, I ended up, so after Scott French, which is one of the PR people for Bromley, and he came to me and that's when he asked me about doing Fashion Week. That is like, I did Fashion Week, and once I did Fashion Week, it was just like, it was a pull from every direction. People were like, hey, let me see you do this. Let me get you over here for that, you know. And like, hair had become one of those things that I had just kind of like pushed to the side for a second, but it's still there, you know what I mean? You can't have one without the other. It's like, you can't look good on the outside and your head look like crap, you know. It's a complete package. You have to have it all. And I'm so appreciative that I have the gift to do everything from start to finish, meaning your hair, and if it takes me to find the fabric to put a whole outfit together for you, and you just go buy your own shoes. But I got the rest of it, you know. That part of it is like really, really great. So February the 16th, I showed a full collection for Fall Fashion Week. Our school did like this really, you know, they do like a really big thing for Fashion Week. So I showed my collection. Not only showed my collection, I had complete Q&A with Essence Magazine, which was really awesome. And Emmy, her name is Esmeralda, her first name is Emmy, but we call her Emmy Sanchez, which is the general manager at BCBG. She was like, I need you to be our stylist. And I was like, I really don't want to be a stylist. I don't want to get into retail. I don't want to get into doing all of that. I want to make the garment. I want to put it on your back. I want you to be my stylist so you can say, hey, let me grab this piece, you know? But once I thought about it, it was one of those things that it doesn't matter what it's one step into what you're going into, the next part of it. And I've always said that I wanted to design with Luba and Max Azaria versus, you know, selling or, you know, styling their clients. And I think that with me end up getting a stylist position and being one of their top stylists, it's opening up that door, you know, like going into being one of the designers that is designing for them. I don't know, I just know that it was something that I just like put in the atmosphere, and it's all just been falling like in my lap, and I'm just overwhelmed right now. I got a lot going on. I still work at the dry bar. I still have another job doing hair on the side too. Then I am still styling, and I'm still cutting and creating clothing every single day, and I am tired as hell. But every part of it, if I tell you, it's so worth it, and it's exhilarating. I promise you, it really, really is. It's awesome.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I feel like I don't even know how I got to this point, but like everything fell in my lap. And I'll tell you about my background. So I went to college for 1 year, and I hated it. Like I hated the routine of it. Like I couldn't do the classes every Tuesday. It was like blowing my mind. So I had grown up in Brooklyn, and I came back to Brooklyn, and I was like, I'm gonna be a stylist. And I can't even tell you how I knew what that was. Like I think back and I have no idea where that came from. And 2 weeks later, I met a stylist whose assistant was moving to LA. And I ended up working for him for like 4 years. We worked with Beyonce and J-Lo and Rihanna and like every celebrity possible. So I did that for a few years, and then I got a call out of nowhere for a production assistant job or role somewhere, and I didn't even ask what it was for. I was just like, yes, like let's do it. And I showed up the next day, and it ended up being Sex and the City, the movie. So I was like, okay, I can get down with this. Like this works. It was the hardest 5 months of my life. No, like hardly any money, but you know, it helped propel my career past that point. From there, I met an agent on like a cruise ship. I was on vacation, and so that kind of came out of nowhere. Like everything just fell into place. I left my agent last year, but I'm still doing like e-commerce. I'm doing celebrity on my own, private clients on my own, and I just expanded to entrepreneurs and coaches. So any female who owns a business and is in the public eye, I style her for her website and her marketing and her branding and videos. So that's my story. But a theme that I've heard from the entire panel so far is that our careers are all based in relationships and, you know, taking risks, right? Not really knowing what's gonna happen, but still going for it. So I know for me, saying yes to most things, like trusting my intuition, if it feels like it's wrong, like I usually say no, despite how much money they're offering. So for me, taking risks and saying yes has actually was why I'm here and like why I'm still working almost every day. So I would love to hear from you guys, one or two things that you think is the reason and key to your success and like why you have gotten to this point, aside from like the universe being amazing.
I think it's one of those things that if you pave the way for anything that you want, that door will open. But it's for you to turn a knob, or for you just to go ahead and kick it in and say, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I don't care. You can't be afraid of the unknown when it's something that you want. You're not one. And I always tell, like just like with my kids, I always tell them, if you're hungry, you're gonna feed yourself. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean starve, but it still means, don't sell your soul. But at the end of the day, if it's something that you really, really want, you're gonna go and you're gonna get it. Or you're gonna sit back and you're gonna be that person that say, if I woulda, coulda, shoulda. And that shouldn't be anything you should ever say, Yeah.
What about you?
I think it would be with building relationships with people and also realizing that every experience you can bring back to what you want to do. So even if it's an internship that's very mundane and you don't like it, it could be not in the exact industry, you're learning really valuable skill sets, like business skill sets, communication skill sets, like anything that you can then bring to that job and getting a variety of experience. So just saying yes to everything that you can and like making your own experience to gain your experience. So making your own like photo shoots or your own blog or website, like anything you can do to like learn, build it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
For me, one thing that's kind of like a life lesson that I think is great is being kind. I know there's also kind of this belief that everyone in fashion is hardcore, bitchy, or cutthroat. I mean, those things happen, but it's a new world. The pool of options and people and people you're going to work with is so much bigger. And when you're an actual kind person, so many more people are going to help you out in a tough spot. So as a stylist, especially working at a magazine, when you have to feature so many different brands. Like if you just have one connection, like say at Wild Fox, you cannot feature Wild Fox again throughout the entire issue unless they're an advertiser. Like there's so many things that go into it. So your relationships are key to get your job done. So when you're in a tight spot, you're on a deadline, or you're dressing a celeb and you want that like highly coveted brand, when you have those relationships with those PR people and you're like, hey girl, I need a skirt in 2 days, like ASAP. They will help you out because you're a good person, you're a nice person, you're not bitchy, you didn't throw the major shade at an event. So I think that's really important to be kind and your relationships are key. And respect them and they will respect you and they'll help you out. And then also PR people that once started as like a junior assistant, one day they're gonna be at Chanel because they turn so much higher. There's so much more turnover in PR. So one girl that's junior will now then be like running the show somewhere else for a big brand that you need. So they'll remember you. All of them say that. They, you know, you were the one that was like not the crazy editor, and that's why I wanted to help you out. So it's important.
And I think to piggyback off of that, like when you're starting out and you need opportunities and you gotta get your foot in the door, it's not glamorous. Like assisting a stylist is not, you're not styling. Like you're really a hand for the most part. Like you're really just that person. Steam this, hold this, where's the clips? Like did you bring a lint roller? Like where's like you're pulling the rack and like for the large part, like a guilt, like a majority of it was like steaming. Like I steamed so much product, it's not even funny. But I did it with a smile on my face, and I was just ready to just do it because I wanted to do it so bad. And we get interns now at Jack Bread's, and it's almost like a test because there are some like a lot of them, most of them, all of them steam everything. They just have to do it. But there are some that I ask, and I'm like, hey, can you steam this for me? And it's like, again, and it's like body language. And I know you don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. No one wants to do it. But then there are some that are just like, oh, absolutely, no problem. Like, I got it. Like, is that the only one? Don't you do that one too? And I'm like, at the end of the day, that's the ones who you think about when something opens up or someone asks you, like, hey, do you know anyone that wants to? I'm like, I know this person. I know he kind of like was like, you know, he's a little bit about it because that's reflective of who you are too, is who you recommend. But I know one person that she's gonna bang out and she's gonna bring everything and she's gonna be prepared and she's gonna do it all with a smile on her face, And that's what I'll recommend going forward. And that person gets into a position of a little bit more and like they eventually do their own thing where you're not just steaming all the time. Like you actually have some sense of creative direction and like doing what you want to see done, but you got to start somewhere and you got to be humble and appreciative to just get your foot in the door first.